Howdy! I wanted to make a Pit of Heresy solo flawless guide video. I have 41 solo flawless clears of the dungeon at the time of recording, so I figured I could share a lot of my knowledge with you guys on just how to get it done. If you've never done it before, good news! This is probably the easiest dungeon to solo flawless and has one of the coolest solo flawless emblems. Along with breaking down how each encounter works, I'm also going to share some helpful tips and tricks that I use whenever I do a solo flawless run. And without further ado, let's get started with... Before I get started on tips for the first encounter, let me do a quick rundown on what exactly first encounter is. So once you place the flag, you want to drop down over to A. After you kill the pit keeper, you want to enter the room and kill the big guy with the sword, and then look at the 3 symbols. Go to those symbols based on which one is closer to you, and then work your way out. There will be another pit keeper. You kill the pit keeper to enter the room, and then you kill the mini boss using a function with the sword you got from the knight at A. If it's the wizard, you use heavy attacks. If it's the knight, you use light attacks. And if it's the shrieker, you block to reflect the bullets at the shrieker. Once all 3 of these mini bosses are dead, if you look out over the general encounter, you will see a big green beam coming from one of the towers. Head over to that beam and kill the pit keeper residing at that tower, then the encounter will be over. On to the tip section. The first tip is the sword will block all damage except for a couple AoE instances. This includes damage coming at you from behind. The 2 instances of AoE damage in this encounter that the sword will not block is the heavy attack slam from the green knights and some of the arc energy that the wizards shoot out. Although normally in this encounter you don't need much healing because of how spread out the encounter is and how the adds are affected by that, there is one tower that has a bunch of adds because there are 2 bridges that converge on it. That tower is the Burger Tower, so just make sure you are prepared for that and maybe have a little extra healing in store for when you need to take on this tower. And you do normally need to take on this tower because to the left of Burger Tower, a new knight with a sword will spawn on the staircase, making it very easy to get a new sword if you've run out of ammo on your first or second one. If you are struggling with killing the knight mini boss, a good combo to use is block, light attack, light attack. Block, light attack, light attack. Keep this up until you get a super, and then once you get the super, use the super, and then go back to repeating the combo. If you are struggling with the wizard room, just drop the sword and kill the other 2 wizards. Once they're dead, you can use the sword and just jump around the room and heavy attack to kill the big wizard mini boss. Now that you've beaten first encounter, you can follow the path over to... Being the shortest encounter in this dungeon, there is not much I can tell you about this encounter. It's literally just kill knight, grab ball, dunk ball, and you're done. The first tip for this encounter is to ideally have a path in mind because getting lost could cause you to forget which rooms you've already been through, which knights you've killed, and which places you've already dunked. This is my path if you want to copy it or if you want to make your own using this map, just go for it. Okay, quick masterclass on how ogres work. They have a beam attack, it does a lot of damage, it indicates you are at a medium to long range. This is bad. Counter this attack, you should run underneath the ogre's feet. The ogre AI will sense that you are close and stop the beam attack and instead start a stomp attack. You can tell this is happening because the ogre's arm will start to swing upwards. Once you know the attack is happening, you want to run behind the ogre so that the shockwave he sends out with the stomp attack will send you flying forwards, giving you a boost to get you further away from him. On top of the boost giving you more time to run, the ogre's head will also be turned towards the direction you were originally coming from. So after his slight attack cooldown after the stomp, it'll take an extra second for him to turn around, giving you even more time to run. That's pretty much all I have for second encounter, so let's move on to... Okay, time to break down one of the best dungeon encounters of all time. How it works is you go stand on this big plate in the middle. You'll notice at the top of your screen there's a buff going up. If that buff gets to 10, you won't die, but you will take like 8 times as much damage from every source. The way to keep those stacks down is staying off the plate, going to kill a knight, getting a ball, going back and dunking it. But if you take too long to kill the knight and get the ball, the totem will get angry, turn red, and will wipe the encounter. You just repeat this process of killing the knight and dunking the ball 6 times, and then you will move on to the next encounter. There aren't too many tips for this section just because most of the trouble in this section is staying alive and being fast, which is mostly fixed by builds. There are, however, a couple things I can recommend that can help get this encounter moving smoother for you. The first thing is when you pick up the purple ball, just try and skate along the ground with it to move faster. Don't sprint with it. You can do normal double jumps with it if that helps, but really skating with the ball will get you there faster and maybe shave off 1 or 2 seconds, which could stop you from having a wipe.
The second thing is, every time you dunk a ball, 2 knights spawn up top in the encounter, one on the left and one on the right. All I'm recommending is that you have a weapon or an ability or something that can kill those knights every time they spawn, because if you leave them and let too many stack up, they do start to become a problem. Another thing you can do if you're worried about speed is just skip the knight in the middle. You can just kill the knights on the left and right. You don't have to kill one knight to get the other one to spawn. They are on a 30-second timer. So if you wanted to, you could just kill knights all out of the left side or just all out of the right side. Okay, that is all the tips I have for third encounter. Now let's move on to witches. Real quick before witches, there is this dropper in the encounter which I know some people struggle with, so I'm going to show 2 ways to get through it. Option 1 is the just jump and it all works out. If you jump at the right time at the very top, all of the pillars will line up and you'll make it through no problem. This pillar position is when I like to jump. Option 2 is the much safer route of jumping and stopping on every single ledge. You do still need to time your jumps with the rotations, but if you go in the way that the pillars are moving, then you won't have any trouble. But yeah, just drop down from ledge to ledge and you'll make it no problem. Okay, quick rundown for the witches encounter. You start by looking at 3 symbols, and then you traverse the encounter looking to kill 3 wizards at the gazebos that are tied to those 3 symbols. And then once you kill all of them, the encounters end and you can move on to the boss. Okay, as for tips and tricks, the number one thing that you need to be able to do here is know your route. If you aren't familiar with Pit of Heresy, this is going to be hard, but there is a map that I'm putting up on screen right now that shows you where everything is. So if you're having a problem navigating, use this map, it should help you out. The second thing that you're going to want to do is probably run a movement option like a sword or something just to help keep you out from falling. Run stompies, run lion rampants, run heat rises on warlock if you need to. There are a lot of traps in this encounter that involve jumping and parkour to get over, under, or around. Just be patient with them, do not rush them. There are also a couple secret paths through this encounter. I'll show a couple here, although do keep in mind that sometimes these secret paths are not safer than the original route. So if you are worried about the solo flawless, do take some of these paths if the symbol ends up coming up for you, because it will be more helpful. There are a couple that if you're thinking, I don't know if I can do that, or that jump seems pretty far, don't do it, just go the normal route and wait out the traps. I can assure you, you would rather do that than regret dying 4 encounters in and having to reset. The last tip for this encounter is to kill the wizards first, if possible, because in each little gazebo, there are a bunch of enemies and then the wizard. Killing the wizard will immediately de-aggro all the enemies off of you, and then a few seconds later will despawn them all. Okay, that's all the tips and tricks for the wizards encounter. Let's move on to the final encounter and hopefully get you this clear. Okay, Zolmak. This encounter works by killing one of the knights to take the sword and then going up to one of the 3 gazebos to kill the mini-bosses. It's the same mini-bosses as the first encounter, so use the same ways to defeat them with the sword. Once each mini-boss dies, they will drop a purple orb, just like in the second and third encounters. You want to pick up this orb and run to the middle and dunk it in one of the dunk tanks. Once all 3 orbs are dunked, the arena will turn green and Zolmak will be able to be damaged. You can, however, only damage him when standing inside the green arena. After this, damage Zolmak. If you don't kill him, rinse, repeat, and then you've cleared the dungeon. Okay, tips and tricks. For starters, once you kill a mini-boss, don't immediately pick up the ball. Instead, go kill the other 2 mini-bosses. This will make it so you don't have to micromanage having to get a new sword for every mini-boss, and so you don't have to worry about dunking so early on. My ideal route is to kill the wizard, go over to the knight, use the super, run over to the shrieker, lock to kill the shrieker, and by the time I get back to the knight, I'll have another supercharged and then finish him off with light attacks. If you're worried about the balls despawning, don't worry. They all respawn once all 3 mini-bosses are dead and the last ball is dunked or has despawned. Look out for boss attacks. The boss attacks can hit you pretty much anywhere except behind the gazebo, and because he shoots like a knight, he pre-fires. So if he sees you flying one direction through the air, he will aim in front of you in the air. So try and use irregular jumping movements, or just use cover well.
During damage, you need to look out for the cursed thralls. They will end so many of your runs if you do not kill them. I find that waiting to use your super until they spawn in is good, or if you have a big burst super, you can use that on the boss and it will hopefully kill a lot of the cursed thralls as well. And with all that in mind, you should be able to get your first solo flawless clear. If you're wondering why I didn't include loadouts in this, it's because there's so many videos that already show good loadouts for the dungeon, and I personally am not a fan of just giving somebody a loadout to do something. I like it when you make your own loadouts. The first videos on my channel that blew up were all about building your own loadouts, so if you want some more insight into that, go watch those videos. I'll link the first one in the description. If this helped you get your solo flawless clear, comment it in the comments. I would love to hear that. That would be so cool. I help somebody get their solo flawless clear. That's awesome. You can also subscribe and like, and sharing the video to a friend who may want to do the clear. That goes a long way as well. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in 10 minutes of useless information about prophecy.